Hey everyone, hope you're doing well. Hope you're having a great morning, afternoon, evening, whatever it is for you from where you're watching. If you're brand new to the live wrangle, this is the time of the month where I hang out live with you guys. We go over news, we go over some art reviews, and I just give you an update on what's going on. So, what do we have going on today? Well, there's a lot that happened in the month of November. Houdini 19 released kind of towards the end of October. And so there's been a lot of new content that's come out for that this month. A lot of industry news as well has been happening. And on top of that, just a lot of great work. I mean, gosh, it's incredible to see the amount of stuff that comes out every single day. As we are going over this wrangle, if you guys have any questions, comments, things you want to add to the chat, this is kind of like a casual hangout. So feel free to add that in, and I'm happy to hang out with you guys as we go along. But let me start off by sharing a screen with a tutorial series that I really enjoyed. This one was by Moeen Syed, who is the guy that you might know from 9 Between. He was hired by Side Effects to create this awesome series that's all about karma. And I just got done watching it last night, most of it anyways. And it's a really good series. I highly recommend it. What's cool about this karma overview is that you'll find a lot of information that was missing in the user docs when karma was originally released. So especially when it comes to the render settings, that's really cool. Specifically, you can find that in the Karma ROP and XPU section, as well as the render settings section down here. So that is something to check out if you're trying to learn Karma. It's not going to give you that real honest review that I was trying to do because Side Effects obviously hired him to do this, and he's not, he's going to show it in a nice light, which is great, and Karma is nice, but that's just kind of how it goes for these sort of things. But this is a really great series, and I really love the way that he teaches. So I just wanted to give you guys that little recommendation for Karma stuff. But besides that, we also have some news. So let's check out some of these things. Blender has released an overview of its Cycles X renderer. And what's cool about the Cycles X renderer update is that it uses XPU. So if we go down here, the GPU performance has greatly increased, and specifically that is with AMD cards. So looking at the Quadro RTX A6000, and yeah, this gives you a pretty good sense of how much faster this is. For certain scenes, this is getting like 10 or 12 or 20 times faster. So it's actually a pretty significant speed bump. And it looks like they have some hair improvements. Looks like we have some, I don't know, stuff here. We have some render time comparisons. What's crazy about Cycles X is that in a lot of ways, they're further ahead than Side Effects is when it comes to the whole XPU or GPU rendering. Not in every way, but right now they seem to be, which is pretty cool. Pretty respectable for a program that is completely free. So something to check out. I know a lot of you guys like hopping over to Blender to use Cycles, and that's a really cool option, really cool workflow, especially if they keep making Cycles faster and faster over time. So something to check out if you guys like Blender. Amazon and EA are in talks to make a Mass Effect TV show, which could be cool, could be kind of lame. I don't know how I feel about it yet. I know Mass Effect is a fantastic series, and what's interesting is that Amazon has taken on huge projects lately, not just with Mass Effect, but also with a Lord of the Rings series as well. And so it'll be interesting to see how Amazon does with that, because you know, what happens sometimes is that these studios might try to wear themselves a little thin. And the fact that they're trying to tackle a huge, huge market with Mass Effect and another huge market with Lord of the Rings hopefully means that they can actually pull it off at the same time. Let's see. Maxons Forger is now available for free. And I've never used Forger before, but this is kind of interesting because it's a sculpting app that you can put on your tablet. And it's just a really cool way of being able to sculpt things on the go. And, you know, for me, I don't sculpt characters for a living. And so to have something that's a free hobby software is kind of nice to have. So that's why I picked this. Now, there is a couple of questions coming in here from my dog. Let's see. I would like to know how XPU compares to Redshift in terms of speed. Pretty sure that Cycles is a little slower than Redshift. Yeah, well, Redshift is, in my opinion, still the fastest GPU render out there. It may not be by a huge margin, but it is by a fair margin, I would say. I'm not sure how Cycles X is going to compare now with this new update. Maybe it's going to be really fast. You know, even if Cycles gets close to what Redshift does, the fact that it's free is pretty amazing. That doesn't mean that Redshift would be off the table, because it does a lot of other things really well. And I imagine Cycles X is going to struggle with certain advanced features. But for your average scene, your average render, it's a good thing to keep in mind. Let's see. XPU's volume rendering looks awesome and is probably fast. Yeah. You know, what I found with XPU's volume rendering was that it crashed for me a few times. So it wasn't that reliable, but over time, that's going to be improved. And, you know, I think within a version or two, Side Effects' XPU volume rendering is going to be pretty awesome. I'm actually right now in the middle of teaching volume rendering with Pyro 3. And with Pyro 3, I'll be doing that with Karma. And so I'm going to run a few more tests on volume rendering with XPU. From my understanding, it might work well if you have a simple smoke situation, but it's not going to work well if you have, you know, a really complex explosion going on with multiple layered color channels, with the flame interacting with the smoke and everything. I'm sure there's ways you can hack it, but for right now, I would still say that Karma, just as a regular CPU engine, is probably the way to go for volumes. even more so than Redshift. I really gave Redshift a really good try here in Pyro 3, but it's just lacking in a lot of ways. But anyway, thanks for the comments there, my dog. So we also have AMD releasing Radeon Pro Render 3.3 for Blender and Maya. And what's interesting about this, I guess, is that Maya is getting a GPU render engine as well. People try to compare Houdini and Maya all the time to see which one's better. I still think Houdini's better, frankly, for most situations. But yeah, I've never used AMD's render. It's Radeon Pro Render. One thing that's probably not so ideal about this Pro Render is that I can't imagine that they want to play nicely with NVIDIA. So without trying anything with Maya and Blender, this may or may not be a cool thing, but something to keep an eye on, because who knows, maybe this sort of thing can become a useful thing that you see in small scale productions, or even for people's demo reels. Okay, 80 level ratings, YouTube channels on procedural workflows. So I'm going to bookmark this page for later because I'm curious to see what you guys enjoy when it comes to Houdini channels. These are some folks that I've seen before, super good. And yeah, I guess if you're in the chat, what are your favorite YouTube channels? I mean, besides CG Forge, of course. I'm always trying to see what other people are doing and seeing how I can improve my own stuff for you guys based on what you like. So let me know in the comments. Unity intends to buy Weta Digital for $1.6 billion. If you didn't hear that, that's huge news. And pretty unexpected, honestly. I don't think anyone thought that Weta would be selling to Unity. And what's also interesting about this acquisition is that it's almost like Unity and Weta made it sound more like they're working together rather than it is now an acquisition. It is now one company. It kind of, when they talked about it, it was almost like, oh, we're kind of just partners in crime here. We're not actually like buying them out. And maybe that was like a PR move. I'm not really sure why they didn't express that, you know, being that they just paid $1.6 billion. Maybe that was intentional, maybe that wasn't. But I talked to a few people that had no idea that, yes, I believe Unity actually bought out Weta, like bought the company. Not just they're working with them, but they own Weta now. So that's kind of interesting. And Unity has been getting smoked by Unreal Engine lately. And I really believe that this is probably a move for them to try to carve out a niche in the film TV market, to try to be more of the go-to people for that kind of live work, or that kind of real-time production. And so it'll be interesting to see what happens. We could have a future where Unity takes care of more of the film, VFX, TV kind of production, and Unreal Engine takes care of more of the video game side of things. But I don't know, Unreal Engine is just really nice compared to Unreal. I've used both before, and I have to say Unity still has a ways to go, in my opinion, to catch up with what Unreal is doing. But we'll see. It's an interesting thing to note. Netflix now allows you to play video games, so they're entering into the video game space. I think everyone wants a piece of that pie, because I don't know if you guys know this, but video games actually make more money by a lot than film and TV do, which is kind of cool. I mean, kind of cool, but yeah, it means that everyone's trying to dip their toes into those waters. But, you know, I tell you what, if you are looking for jobs right now, I think getting into video games or anything that's working with real-time engines is a great idea. Just because it's so hot, everyone wants to do it right now. So something to keep an eye on. Maybe Netflix is going to be hiring more for real-time production. So that would be really cool too. EmberGen 0.7.5 is now available. I haven't looked into the major release notes on this, to tell you the truth, but I think a lot of people are having fun with it. And the team at EmberGen really are working hard at making this a cool thing. It looks like now we have some heat distortion options. We have some kind of sparks flying around. I don't know. One question that I get quite a bit is, oh, whoops. Let's see. There we go. That's what it looks like right there. One question that I get about EmberGen quite a bit is like, how does that play into a real-time workflow? Or how does that play into a Pyro workflow in general? And it's really good for previs. It's really good for drafting out ideas, but it's not the best for actual production rendering at the moment, in my opinion, unless you have a client that just wants something really quick. If you have a client, it's a short deadline, they want something quick and they're not going to be picky about it, then EmberGen is a great solution. But for those of you who are freelancing Pyro effects, it's definitely something to keep in your bag of tricks for clients in the future, because this is just going to get better and better and better. And as it does, it's going to be a great option for some clients. Okay, we have one more news headline, then we'll move on to something else. Marvelous Designer 11 is out. And again, I haven't looked at the features specifically. Looks like there's some topology improvements. They overhauled the entire user interface, which is crazy, but good because Marvelous Designer's interface traditionally has been kind of clunky, honestly. And so it looks like they improved that. They have a new retopology system going on. And what else? Yeah, that's about it. New animation changes, apparently. So that's kind of cool. And one comment here from my dog, which is true, is that Mr. Beast's new Squid Game had 100 million views, relied heavily on Unreal Engine for fast VFX turnaround. Yeah, and that's exactly the market that they're trying to go for here. I mean, it makes sense, right? If you had to compete with Unreal Engine, first of all, that would suck because they're really, really good. But second of all, it would make sense to try to find an area that they are not covering as well and try to be really specific about that area. So that's exactly what they're doing. And, it'll be interesting to see what happens. I do think, though, that Unreal has a massive advantage with the fact that they have mega scans and they have nanites. I mean, the nanite alone is just a huge deal. I'm pretty sure they have some patents on that technology. So that is, I think, hard to beat, honestly. But yeah, they're going for that, and I think it's a smart move for them to go that route. And they just paid over $1 billion to be in that game with Weta's tools. So they're serious. They're really serious about that. Okay, so that is about it for the news in October. Those are the major headlines that I found for things that are changing, things that are happening this month. I want to move on now to CG Forge and let you guys know what I've been up to, because there is a lot of stuff that I've been doing lately. So at CG Forge here, we have Black Friday. It's ending in about 3.5 days, if you haven't seen that yet. What's cool about Black Friday is that, yes, you get discounts on subscriptions, but it's also featuring a brand new service that I launched this month called CG Forge Academy. Now, CG Forge Academy is a service that allows you to book one-on-one meetings with me. And why would you do that? Well, let me show you why. So with these online meetings, what you can get is demo reel reviews, professional career advice, technical Houdini questions, scene file walkthroughs, tutoring on specific topics, constructive critiques, setting professional goals, and so on and so forth. Basically put, the CG Forge Academy allows you to get help with your specific goals. And the really cool thing about that service is that if you're trying to, let's say, go to college or a workshop, you don't really get that individual attention. You may not have a lot of time where somebody sits down with you and tries to work with what your goals are, how to get there. I mean, I hear all the time questions from people who want to figure out what video they need to learn next, or what project they need to do next, or how to go and get a job. Or even if they're in the industry, how do you prepare for an interview? How do you freelance? How do you raise your prices over time? These are all fantastic questions for CG Forge Academy. And what's unique about it is that it's one-on-one, so it's just between us. You get a video replay or a video recording of that whole session. And if you decide to go with the whole mastery package where we meet every single week, that can become a one-on-one mentorship where I create a curriculum for you. I check in every week. We go over your scene files. And it's honestly a perfect complimentary service for anyone who's trying to get better at Houdini. So that's what I'm trying to put out there. It's kind of difficult to tell or teach people what this is all about. But once you realize the power that has to have somebody helping you with your goals, then you realize, wow, that's actually better than what you get at college or a workshop or really anywhere else. So I'm really excited about that new service and something to check out. Now, like I said, for Black Friday, you do get discounts on subscriptions, but you also get big coupons for CG Forge Academy. So if you went for, let's say, a 6-month subscription, that would give you a free 45-minute session. A 12 months would get you a free 90-minute session, or you can use these as discounts for the mastery package as well. So something to check out. I think everyone can benefit from someone else taking a look at their situation and trying to help them professionally in some way. Okay, so I've been building all of that. In addition, Pyro 3 is very close to being done. This has been the biggest course I've made to date. I don't think, there's no course that's even come close to the level of complexity, research, and work that I've put into this particular course. And that's intentional. I mean, everyone loves to make big pyro explosions, so I want to offer something that nobody else has offered before. And that's exactly what this course is. You know, I spent, I think it was 2.5, 3 months of researching Pyro, going through every single bit of content that's out there on this topic, and then going through a bunch of tests and workflow experiments to come up with stuff that nobody has taught before. So as a subscriber, you would get access to that, or you could pay a flat price for permanent access. But the bottom line is that this is going to be the best Pyro course to date. We're rendering this with Karma. It has all the latest bells and whistles that you need to know. It's going to be awesome. So really looking forward to that as well. All right. Well, one last thing to wrap up this whole session. I want to go over some artwork in the side effects gallery. Talk about things that are working well, things that are not. Do some art reviews. I know a lot of you guys enjoy those. So let's go ahead and take a gander at what has been happening lately with people's artwork. So starting here with Dragon Breath. What do we got? And I have no idea who this is by the way. I'll tell you in here in a second. All right, so we got some sweet pyro happening. I love the shading on the pyro. I think the shading is pretty legit, honestly. I probably could use a bit more smoke. One thing that people don't always do is they don't put embers in there. And let's take a look at the beginning of that pyro flame. Yeah, so This is something that I talk about every now and then, where if you have like a jet of flame, like right around here, and you just, shoot out velocity right there, if that velocity is going into an area of no velocity, you get these bubble shapes. And so one thing that'll help this situation here, or anyone's situation, is to source velocity ahead of this flame right here so that you're not as bubbly towards the beginning of the sim. And it looks like there's some weird collision artifacts happening right here as well. Probably because the mesh is pretty thin. If the mesh gets thin, then you might have some volume leaking through that mesh. But overall, though, the shading is pretty awesome. And I think that the fact that they had a dragon in there is pretty sweet. So great job, Professor F. I think this was a cool project. What else do we got? We have a breaking wave by Jen Lee. Huge tidal wave. Rain's pretty cool. Rain's probably a little bit heavy towards the beginning there, but I guess it would be heavy if it was a tsunami. Nice layered rain. Nice combination of things. There's a lot of effects going on here. And it looks like they might have done all the modeling as well. So these trees are probably procedural. They have the wind going on. There's a lot of cool effects work in this project right here. And I just want to point out that, when people are starting with Houdini, they often think that effects is something that they can just do with, one shelf tool or like one little trick, and then that will make the client happy. But the reality is you need to put together all kinds of stuff. White water, wind on the trees, layers of rain, debris, RBD, and that's exactly what he's showing right here. If this was a demo reel, this would be a great project to showcase. And I love how these breakdowns are happening too, because it's showing, okay, I know what goes into a shot. I know all the different layers it takes to make something that would actually show up on a screen. And so, yeah, I'm a huge fan of this project because it has so many different elements going on. We even have some intense drama of the kid who's about ready to just get wrecked by this tidal wave. I mean, tragic as hell, but not only is it just effects, it's also trying to tell a story. And the combination of all that stuff is really cool. So that was really well done by Jen Lee. Okay, maybe a couple more of these and then we'll wrap this up. This is a Deep Sea #1, Abstract Forms by Vinny Kusaraho. Sorry, I butchered that name. I'm not good with names sometimes, but this is really cool. Love the tiny little grains at the bottom. Love the overall vibe. What's cool about this abstract stuff is that you can take, I don't know, like an idea, copy to points, a node, and you can just turn that idea into something that looks cool. And that's, for those of you who are looking for practice, that's a really cool way of practicing your artistic ability. Take one node, do something with it, and then try to make it look cool somehow, and then create a concept for it, and then somehow turn it into exactly what we see right here. I think the combination of all that stuff is really cool. And yeah, I dig it. It's nice. All right. And then we got some League of Legends stuff. And we got some robot stuff. Robo Bust Cruncher. So, yeah, looks like some procedural modeling kind of stuff going on there. Some particle robo crazy stuff, lines and circles. Yeah, I think there's been a lot of cool stuff. Let's take a look at this Pyro stuff from Jahir Hussein. Cool. Got some footage, comping it in. That's another thing too. If you're ever showing a Pyro simulation for a demo reel, it's never enough just to have a ball of smoke that's has a black backdrop and you shaded it really well, not enough. You got to show that interaction with the environment. You have to place it in there. Maybe do some live plate footage like this. Have the plate moving. I would like to see a bit more movement on this plate. I think that it's cool that he went through a track on that, but it's a pretty slow track. And, you know, a lot of people do this top-down view of large explosions, but the issue with that is it makes it feel small because it's taking up a small portion of the screen. This is something that I talk about in Pyro 3 quite a bit, where if you want the Pyro explosion to feel big, you make it flash real quick and you make it take up a huge portion of the screen. You see that all the time in Star Wars movies, in any major VFX project, where they want the explosion to feel big, they make it explode fast, and then they take up a huge portion of the screen and they flash you real quick with some clipped highlights. It just makes it feel like a big explosion. You don't get that, unfortunately, with this top-down angle. And so what I would probably recommend is picking a different plate and also trying to get closer to those explosions to make them feel bigger. But good stuff. I think that this is heading in the right direction. So right on, Jahir. All right, guys. So I think that about does it. What's coming up in the future is pretty awesome. Pyro 3, again, is going to be done in the next week. Black Friday lasts till December 3rd, which I think is this Friday. Yeah, this Friday. So definitely check it out before that expires. And after Pyro 3, there's going to be a lot more releases coming from CG Forge. I know the past few months have been a little quiet because I've just been doing Pyro 3. But after that, there's going to be more quick tips, more short courses, more releases. It's going to be really cool. So until next time, I hope you guys have a fantastic week. I hope that December goes well for you. And that about does it. Take care.